Can see here, tire is touching the shock. No good. Oh! Good morning, guys. We are gonna go work on the Jeep today. So you've got some tires out here. You've got a couple Patagonias, a 40, a 38, and some ramps. So you know what that means. Redneck RTI ramps. So we're gonna flex this thing out, try to adjust the bump stops, get them in a sweet spot. And then I've made some new bump stops for the rear. Not adjustable, but I think they're gonna do the trick. Here's what those new bump stops look like. Plate just like butted up, so the welds, are sticking out a little bit. I didn't bevel the edges because, they're bump stops. Nothing fancy, all made out of 3/16. We're gonna go bolt those up, and hopefully these will give us some more options. So I made the bump stop longer, but the pad that goes on there, the rubber part on the bottom, I have one that's 4.5 and one that's 3 inches. So got about 1.5 inches of adjustment if we need it. All right, so bump stop in the front. It looks like it's just barely touching, but it's limiting it too much. We've got to open that up a little bit. You can kind of see what I mean right here with this. Yes, the tire's clearing the shock right now, but once you turn, the back of that tire is gonna hit that shock. Rear looks good. There's that new bump stop. This other bump stop is about perfect. Look how close that is to the frame right there. Really tight. All right, so I'm gonna try to flex out a little bit more and see if this side will go up a bit. All right, that's a little bit too much. Touching the fender, and now we're touching the body in there. And I'm sure we're destroying my fuel hose. Still haven't lifted a tire. All right, you can see here, tire is touching the shock. No good. And that's not even turning really, that's just a slight turn. So that's probably gonna have to get extended another inch. I think so far I only extended it 1 inch, but we can do 1/2 inch increments. I think I'm just gonna do a 1 inch, and that's the reason why we need new shock towers and stuff right there. Probably gonna have to extend it even more later when we get our new shocks. But clearance in the fenders is good. This side totally drooped. Okay, so this is the big change. I took the 3-inch bump stop out and put this 4.5 inch one back in. It starts contacting the pad about 1 inch before anything before it starts to go up here. Really need to just glue these on. We've got plenty of clearance around the tire. That is our limiting factor right there. And then our fuel hoses are right behind there. But this is for snow runs. We're not gonna be rock crawling with these on, at least not intentionally. But I think we are getting close to maxed out on the droop. I'm not really sure how much more we've got on that driver's side. But yeah, this side's gonna have to stop, because that is no bueno. Gonna have the tires fighting the shocks. Holy smokes, look how close drag link is. Very close. So as you can see, the weather is not cooperating with what we need to do out here. So obligatory shot of the tires sticking out. Okay, anyways. So check this out. This looks different. Yeah, dang, dude. All right, so I started driving this thing around on the road, and straight up trash. With these tires, one of the worst rides I've ever had in any vehicle. They're not round. When I was spinning them on the ground with the axle lifted up a little bit, and you could see it just was going up and down like that because they're not a very round tire. That didn't help. I also don't have any sort of balancing on them. That didn't help. And the steering wheel is just shaking like crazy, blah, blah, blah. So if you remember before, we had the stock Jeep YJ steering box, and it looks just like this, except the arm is going back out this way. We haven't really had too many issues with it, but if you look closely, you can see there are some dents right here from the tie rod end hitting the diff cover on compression. Wasn't a huge deal. But with the axle being pushed 4 inches forward, there's a lot of things that just weren't lining up right. So we had the stock YJ steering box, the Pitman arm facing back like this. Then we had a tie rod end over the Pitman arm, which was a Chevy Astro Pitman arm that's flat, and then it went all the way over here to this top part of the knuckle up here, and our steering geometry was pretty good. One thing we did have to change up was the frame. We had to take a notch out of the frame because it was impacting where that tie rod was hitting, just like you saw earlier in this video. Okay, fast forward. So I knew I was going to need hydraulic assist eventually. I mean, it'd be great to have it with even 38s, but once we put the 39.5s on here, this is a must-have. We have to have hydraulic assist to do this. My buddy hooked me up with this Chevy Astro steering box, and it was already tapped. I forget how much I paid for it, but it was way cheaper than sending a steering box into somebody like Redneck Ram or something like that, because you have to pay a bunch of extra money at first. You mail your steering box and either get rebuilt or a core. This Jeep has the 4-bolt steering box, and what they mean by that is there's 4 bolts that hold it on right here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you can see here in the Chevy Astro, it only takes 3 of those bolts. But what's amazing to me, and I think this should be amazing to a lot of people, is a Chevy Astro steering box just bolts up to this thing perfectly. Yeah, a lot of these boxes are pretty similar, but you would think that part at least would be a little bit off, but it's not. Line's right up. So I just got some new hardware. We got grade 8 hardware on there, and then there's 1 bolt hole that's unused. Not a big deal. The biggest change to using this Chevy Astro box is pretty obvious. It's 180 degrees off from the throw. So if you were to put this Pitman arm on with it back there, your steering would be backwards. When you turn the wheel to the left, it would actually turn right. That's a problem, unless you want to relearn how to drive your Jeep. So yes, the arm comes out to the front, and because the arm's flat, it's low. So I have seen some people bend these up a little bit and then put like a big piece of gusseting on here. I'm not going to do anything like that just yet. I don't know how permanent this is going to be, but if you look at the angle, I mean, it is like perfectly flat. It's really close to being flat with the tie rod, so the steering angles are really good. There isn't anything wonky going on there. I've got the tie rod end into the Pitman arm and the Pitman end into the tie rod, so I could definitely swap those up. Right now, it's not a factor. Another thing this change did is it turned my steering wheel back to being aligned. It's been upside down since I changed the steering the last time, and I just didn't get around to fixing it. But not only does the steering box line up with the frame, all the linkage in the back up here just bolts right up. It makes this really a breeze to do it. And like I said, it was already drilled and tapped for hydraulic assist, which is just money. All right, so when I bought the Chevy Dana 60 for the Samurai, the guy that sold it to me also included this PSC Ram. I don't know if it's ever been used. It looks a little bit beat up, but so I had that Ram basically for free. Got a really good deal on the steering box, so this wasn't costing a lot. And then in the neighboring town, there's a tractor shop that makes these lines. So I had the lines already, and they just shortened them up for me, and I gave myself a ton of slack. You can see they come out of the box, they wrap around up here by the radiator, and then they swing down. And I want to get some more of this protective shielding that you wrap around it. I don't know exactly what this is called. The tractor shop called this spiral plastic. So yeah, I want to get some more of this spiral plastic and throw it on this other one, because there's a chance it's going to be rubbing on this stuff, and you know, just make it a little bit tougher. Everything's hanging down further in the front now, so that is something that I took into account. Like, you know, this can hit some rocks, but the good news is I already have another Pitman arm that was on my YJ box, so I have a spare Pitman arm, which is pretty cool. We no longer are using the high steer arm, but I'm going to leave it on there because we might have to go back to it eventually, and the notch is no longer a problem there. This is like the 3rd vehicle that I've done hydraulic assist on, and the key part of it I've found is making sure your ram is mounted parallel with the tie rod this way, and then parallel front and back too. You don't want any weird angles on this or it can give you some twitchy steering. This one is nice and flat. It's hidden right there behind the tie rod. I'm just going off of my diff cover, and I know some people are like, what? Is that really strong enough? Trust me, it's strong. We got all those bolts on your diff going into a bunch of thick steel. It's strong enough. On the other edge here, I had to get a little creative. The throw for this ram, it would need to go like onto this threaded part of the tie rod. I didn't want to do that, so I just cut some angles into it, made sure we clearanced it. So the process I use for getting all of the air out of the steering system is I just take the cap off of the power steering reservoir, jack the front up off the ground, and then I just pour power steering fluid in there, and you'll see it start to bubble up as it starts to fill in the new steering box and maybe gets in those lines for the ram a little bit. Then I put the cap back on, turn the tires with the engine off. I turn the steering wheel left and right. That's one turn. Top it off, do it again 10 times. Then I'll turn the engine on, and I do the same thing very slowly. Go all the way left, all the way right. That's one. And I do that about 10 times. Shut it off, check the reservoir. I just keep repeating this process. Now, this time it was a little bit trickier. This is the trickiest it's ever been for me. And I don't know if it's because it's a Chevy Astro box, but the first time I had it hooked up, the tires just went boom all the way to one side really hard. I don't know what the deal was. Maybe it had some air in there. I thought I had it hooked up backwards. So I disconnected it, swapped the lines, put it up, got everything bled out. And then when I turned the vehicle on and turned the wheel, I turned the steering wheel to the left and the tires went right. I was like, okay, now this is backwards. So I ended up having to do this like 3 times. It was raining out. It just wasn't a lot of fun, but it's so worth it. After I got that done, I get in there, I can turn the wheel with just one finger like this. There's like no more vibration. Like I could get this thing up to 50, which I did, and the vibes came back. This hydraulic ram is just like a steering stabilizer on steroids, so it just kind of masked a lot of those issues in the front. But eventually I do want to take these tires off, put some beads in there. I just weighed some out the other day. I've got about 14 ounces to put in each, which is a lot, but they're a big tire. So I'm going to try that and see if it helps. If I don't get this thing that streetable with these big tires on there, I think what I'll do is probably just trailer it close to the trail. We're doing this for the snow. That way I can drive pretty slow on the roads when it's all snowy, you know, and probably not even get up above like 40. And yeah, we'll just go from there. But holy smokes, these things look mean. Kind of sucked losing that articulation, like, you know, having to limit everything with our new bump stops and our new steering and all that sucks. But I hope that this additional surface area is going to help spread that weight out and, you know, lower the PSI that's on the bottom of the tire when it's mushrooming out and just float on top of the snow better. That's what I hope. Unfortunately, I think I was a little bit impatient with this. I was supposed to have the 38s on here for a little bit longer because we're supposed to go do trail run this weekend. I don't think the Jeep's going to do great rock crawling like this because it's not going to be able to turn as sharp, and I lost a couple inches of articulation on both ends. Might have to try it. I also don't think the rear Dana 44 is going to enjoy this because, as far as I know, it's still a stock set of axle shafts, and honestly, I'm surprised they've held up this well with the 38. Front has the RCV, so at least if those break, I can warranty them out, but I really don't want to invest any more money in that rear axle, so trying to not rock crawl it. I think it'll be fine in the snow. That's for an upcoming video this weekend, so a couple days from now on the channel. This would be like a week from this video. We should have an update on how all this stuff's doing. So hydraulic assist for me. Hopefully you guys can find a good deal like that. And if you have any questions about it, throw them down in the description. I'll try to get back to you. But really a simple process. I dig it. Looking forward to more wheeling with it. Thanks for checking out this video, guys. If you want to see these parts, I'll try to throw them down in the description for you. See you in the next one.